How has your offseason been now basking in the glow of being the voice of the Super Bowl champions? How has that changed your summer?
It's been an absolute dream, and probably not to the extent that Coach McVay and several of our players have enjoyed, but the opportunities to reconnect with people from my past and those who are interested in the Rams story has just been tremendous. I could not be more thrilled for so many high-ranking members of the organization who really cast this vision from the return to Los Angeles all the way through hosting the best Super Bowl that's ever been, and ideally playing in it, and as it turned out, winning in it. So there have been a lot of good things. As we turn our attention to training camp and the season ahead, I imagine the lens on those type of opportunities will become more of a distraction than opportunity, and they'll have to kind of fight that Super Bowl hangover narrative, I'm sure, going down to Irvine next month.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how much of that narrative is already starting to creep into the expectations for this season, and is there anything that you think the team can do to sort of avoid those challenges that have sometimes taken other teams?
Yeah, it's much different than a small handful of years ago when they lost the Super Bowl in Atlanta to the Patriots, and a lot of the same questions were percolating. When big-time media members like you come right out and predict a repeat, which hasn't been done in nearly 2 decades, in the middle of the summer, I'm sure that puts the weight of the world on their shoulders as they get set to play, I think, the most challenging schedule in the National Football League. But, I think if there's reason to believe, to the prediction you made yesterday, I think there's a chance that the Rams are maybe a year ahead of schedule, actually, in their achievement last year. And a lot of that has to do with the quarterback, Matthew Stafford, and just how much I think he can grow and improve in his second year teaming with Sean McVay in this offense.
Appreciate somebody watching and listening who doesn't share the last name as me, so we thank you for that, JB. JB Long joining the show now, voice of the world champion Los Angeles Rams. And I was joking with the guys yesterday when I came in here that I didn't get the respect of being a fan of a Super Bowl champion team, right? It's like I've suffered these last 6-7 years. I mean, driving down the 405, there's so much traffic, JB. I know you go early, but for us fans, it's a lot, right? So I feel like I've earned this, and the guys didn't give me any respect. Do you feel like the Rams are getting the respect around the NFL for being the defending champions?
Well, a couple of things that I loved about that. One was your Lucky Whitehead Dallas Cowboys opening kick return at the Coliseum upon the Rams' preseason return. And as luck would have it, no pun intended, that was the first NFL play call that I ever announced. And believe me, I was caught just as off guard as you were. Let's not play that clip
That's
back.
Amazing.
And then the other thing that I just had to chuckle at was your substitute teacher vibes stepping in for Rich this week, which I think makes me like the VCR cart that you roll in to play a movie on, right? Like if Rich was hosting, you probably bring in MJD to have this conversation, but I'm glad to be paired with you. In terms of respect, I actually think it has more to do with the external respect for the opponents the Rams are going to place. A year ago, we would have been talking about the NFC West being the best division in football. Now it seems the conversation has shifted, rightly, I think, to the AFC West. And the fact that the Rams' first-place schedule, which already includes the likes of the Cowboys and the Buccaneers and the Packers, also overlaps with that AFC West, which means you're going to run the gauntlet. And if I heard correctly, you're going to talk about your quarterback rankings. And I would just invite you, as you go through those later today, to think of how many of those quarterbacks are going to appear on the Rams' opposing schedule. Starts with Allen, Mahomes is there, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Herbert, Dak, Carr, Kyler, you name it. It's a who's who list, and the Rams and their secondary led by Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald up front, they're going to have to navigate all that.
JB Long joining the show. Ben Lyons filling in for Rich on the Rich Eisen Show. You're talking quarterbacks, and now Matthew Stafford with a year under his belt, a Super Bowl champion. He's starting to see him pop up in commercials. He's getting a little Hollywood on us, or you think he still has that edge to go out there and try and get another one?
I think if there's anything I learned from the first 12 months of watching him work is that he's completely unflappable. And that was the reputation that preceded him. And now that it's kind of on the other end of the spectrum with some of the accolades and the credit that he's finally getting after not just winning his first playoff game, but also a championship along the way, I don't think he'll be changed. I think he actually has a chance to have his best year yet for some of the reasons described previously. But whether or not OBJ comes back to help him along the way, Allen Robinson's acquisition, I think, was a huge one. And he gives Stafford something that I think he's had in his prior years in Detroit, but that the Sean McVay Rams have not had in their handful of seasons. And that is a big-bodied receiver that can really help out in the red zone. And so I'm curious to see what that looks like, teaming with Cooper Kupp and the options that gives Stafford and McVay in the passing game. I think the biggest untold story of the offense at the end of last season was just how much McVay and Stafford learned about each other and came to call plays and execute plays in lockstep. Stafford was at his absolute finest in the postseason, and no surprise in the fourth quarter of those playoff games. I can't wait to see how they carry that momentum through to next regular season.